Hey guys, welcome back to Experience Wisdom. Today we're going to be talking about intuition versus our logical thinking or logical mind.
So oftentimes we struggle to listen to our intuition. When our intuition is telling us to and guiding us in a certain direction, we tend to logically try to depict if that makes sense to us on a logical level. But when you're listening to your intuition, like I said, on a physical level, it's not only like a gut feeling, but it's just an inner knowing. It's just something that you just know is right. And oftentimes our logic minds cannot like understand that. And so we tend to overthink things instead of just being like, okay, this is the unknown. So intuition is like the unknown, essentially. And nobody is comfortable with making decisions in the unknown. That's hard, right? But just learn to kind of trust that the divine, our higher power, has something, knows something far beyond that we see ourselves. So maybe this job application that we put in and we didn't get the position, maybe because what they see we cannot see, and they're like, well, you didn't get this position not because you're not good enough, but because I have something better and in store for you that you're not seeing. So then we tend to get hard on ourselves. But all in all, like, your intuition is that inner guidance, and it's there. It's like a voice there telling you what you should and should not do, or and so that I'm just kind of giving ideas for those who do not know how to listen to their intuition. Again, it's just an inner knowing. If you feel yourself go to the logical thinking and overthinking something, that's when you're using your ego versus your intuition. Just stop where you are, take a deep breath, and then you make that decision based upon what your first instinct was. Usually we already know what to do. Like, our first instinct will tell us, but then our minds get in the way and we're like overthinking it. We're like, blah, 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 this and that, or what if this happens, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, your instinct first told you this, and go by that. And it's hard to trust it, because again, it's trusting the unknown. Because we're like, well, what if this happens down the road, or blah, 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 or things from the past has happened and brought me to here, so I don't want that to happen again. And so we start overthinking it. So really using your intuition is feeling it through and trusting your inner guidance and trusting that your team upstairs has like the best interest at heart for you.
One way that I experienced my intuition was after I graduated college. I kind of spent like 6 months unemployed looking for a job, rejection after rejection. And where I ended up landing is my current job. And I remember going into the interview and kind of saying to myself and God, like, hey, if this is the job for me, just please let me know somehow, give me a sign or something, right? So I had this interview, and I can specifically remember when the interviewee gave me the packet of like benefits for work, and I just remember like getting this like overwhelming feeling of just like an inner knowing. I don't really know how to explain it, but it was very overwhelming, and I just knew like in that moment, like, okay, this is it. Like, I know this is it, and I know I'm gonna get this job. I don't really know how to explain it, but yeah, that was an example for me of just like trusting my intuition and that inner knowing.
So for me, I feel like my intuition, the way I process things are, I go through a lot of like the mistakes and then learn from it, and then when I reflect on it, it's like, okay, this whole time something was trying to tell you something. But sometimes there's so many, it also depends where you are in your like healing journey too, because when I know that there were times and I reflect back and I'm like, wow, okay, in retrospect, I should have really listened to my gut, and really been more aware of like how I was feeling, why things were you know, coming up. For me, it's always happened in relationships. So, and specifically a relationship that I feel like it's that cycle that you come back around. Sometimes I didn't know how to listen to that very well. So I would find myself in the same situations. I struggled a lot with being authentic to myself. So I would really like, kind of just go along with who that person that I was with, just kind of like whatever their thing was. Now I make it my own. But that was always like a cycle in the relationship, in different relationships. But looking back now, I know that there were times when I knew something wasn't right, or I knew that, hey, this isn't who I am personally. This isn't something that, like, how I want to live my life, and something just doesn't feel right. I might have continued because I felt like, it's, you know, at the moment you feel like it's okay, it's gonna work out.
You
or
really hang on to like the hope.
Yeah.
Like things will change, things will get better, things will be different.
That's when the logic mind starts kicking in.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that a lot though, like going back and forth. Like, I know something doesn't feel right.
Your intuition's like screaming at you.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're not.
But at the
You're
same
being
time,
complacent.
I'm so logical. Like, I'm like, this is, there's, for some reason this is happening, you know. But at the same time, it's like, how well are you listening to yourself? How well are you in your body? How well are you, like, making a change or making, you know, things different? And sometimes you don't, and I mess up a lot. And I learned those lessons. I feel like now I'm way better at that. I'm way more aware of, like.
And had you not
Stuff
gone
doesn't feel
through
right.
those experiences where you didn't listen to it, you wouldn't know when you're listening to your intuition now. Sometimes we have to go through all that. I mean, it's a process. It's like, we're human.
And when we don't, and I've experienced times when we, you know, like when I don't listen, and then the universe starts to throw those big, you know, signs.
Like synchronicities.
Yeah.
Like we get like, how we follow our inner guidance is through like, and how we know we're on the right path and right track of where we're supposed to be in our life are those number synchronicities. Like I'll see 1111 on the clock, or I'll see 111 or 222, you know, and so on. And that's when I know like I'm exactly where I need to be. And like
That happened a lot in the beginning of my awakening. It was like, holy, like everything was like, hey, red flashing lights over here. Everything is
or
just
even
like
animals, like
Or
certain animals,
animals.
insects, like butterflies, or like certain things that.
yeah, I would see eagles a lot, like just random eagles, just flying like right in front of my vehicle while I'm driving down the highway. Like I would see things like that. Like it's like my guide saying, hey, you're doing good, keep going, you're following and your guidance of exactly where you need to be. And like just different, like they find ways to connect with you however that looks. And when you're not listening to your intuition, they will send you those same signs, but it comes with the feeling. The difference is it comes with the feeling of, I'm starting to get stuck, or I'm starting in the same cycle or pattern again, and I feel it, and I know my intuition is screaming at me. And so like, so they try their best to get you back in the right path of where you're going. But it, all in all, it is legit an inner knowing. It's just something that you just know, and you know when you're not supposed to be at a certain place of your life, or you know that you have to heal a certain thing, and part of you will be like, oh, and kind of put it off, and then your intuition will keep screaming at you and be like, no.
But even physically, though, you feel it physically. It's so like it's either that uneasy, like
you definitely know when it's not your intuition.
Yeah. When it's way too logical and you're trying to over-explain a lot of things in your life, like too much. And then you're like, okay,
now I'm in my head too much.
Yeah, and then it's like when you're in your body and you just feel like that gut feeling, that hunch, or like that.
And that also correlates with keeping your vibrations high. When you keep your vibrations high, it's easier for them to connect with you, and it's easy for you to listen to your intuition. Like, it's kind of like an exercise. The more you do it, the easier it gets, you know? And I used to exercise my intuition, so I would have like my niece or nephew play like the 3 cups, and then instead of like swishing it around, I would just turn around and have them put it in a certain cup, you know, and then I would turn around and I would use my like inner guidance and my intuition and find that cup. And so those are exercises that you can use to kind of like heighten your intuition. And like your inner knowing, you know, like my inner knowing, I'm going to listen to that, and it's telling me that this ball is on the third cup, you know. So you can do exercises like that too, and just keeping your vibrations high again, like nature, exercising, all of that. And so it's just easier for you to connect and trust yourself, because it's trusting yourself. Like, if you're one that doesn't trust many people, obviously you're not one to trust yourself either. So it's important to just build a relationship with yourself. That's why we always like say self-care and doing inner healing and stuff, because as you do all of that your path in life just seems to run smoothly. Like, you just have this inner knowing that you are exactly where you need to be at this time, you know, and you don't have those as much overthinking, like, oh, what am I doing with my life, or what is this, you know. You don't have that, because you know you're exactly where you're supposed to be. We all are here learning these lessons in Earth School, and that's just part of it. Like, you're not always going to be exactly where you want to be in life. It takes, you know, your inner guidance and intuition to guide you where you need to be, you know, your inner knowing again.
Yeah, and I think the more that you trust your intuition, the more you use your intuition in certain situations, then it even gets a little bit easier, because then you kind of like prove to yourself, like, oh, like my instincts or my intuition was right, and so I can use my intuition. So
and it gives you that confirmation and that confidence where you're like, oh, okay, you know. So that's always nice, that reassurance, like Amy said.
I just wanted to point out, like, even when the universe throws the signs and we still fail to listen, sometimes the universe will literally come in and intervene and maybe even remove things from your life.
Tower card there.
Yeah. And
don't throw that tower card. You can avoid all you want, but it's going to happen.
It's going to come back in, you know, different ways. It's going to come back in like different people.
For instance, like when I was like in a relationship, like, I don't know what, when I was in a relationship, my intuition was telling me, hey, you need to move on from this. You need to move on. Like, this person is not for you. They have like some things they need to work on, and you need to like move on. And I wouldn't listen. And they were screaming at me, like saying, you need to do what you can and remove this person from your life. You know, they'll scream at you, literally. And I didn't. And so then guess what happened? The tower card hit, boom. And I ended up, like, it can be very intense to the point where some people have, like, the way the universe will intervene on some people, like, you'll lose money, you'll lose jobs, you'll lose, like, things like that. Because it's the only way they can get you, because the only way you will most people reach out to our higher power is when they're in their lowest moments, which is sad, but that's really when, you know, people reach out when they're in their most lowest moments. So they put the tower card out there, intervene, take money, things out of your life, like you struggle financially, people
that's
out of
exactly
your
what happened
life.
to me too. Like I was in a relationship where I knew the person was not good for me. I knew, and literally this person was literally taken from me, like, you know, and yeah, it's just insane.
Yeah, and I always say the rejection is God's protection, because it's God's way of being like, hey, I set this up for you because you weren't listening. You're going down that same cycle that you did in other relationships. So I'm going to, since you're not listening and you're not doing what I'm telling you to do, and the signs told me you need to break this off, you need to let it go, you need to keep moving on, then they threw that tower card and said, this person's going to reject you, and this person, you know, you're going to go through harder times now. And so it's not that the higher power is doing it to hurt us. It's just the way we learn. How sad is that? But we learn the hard way. Like it doesn't always have to be a hard way either. You know, like it's not that intense. But if it's something that's like, whoa, we're trying to protect you here and you're not listening, they're going to move mountains for you. You know, at the time it feels like shit. It feels, oh my gosh, my life, why did I lose my job? Why did I do this? Why did this person not like me back? And but you know what? The higher power sees, again, what you can't see. So they're moving things in your life specifically for the best interest for you. And so that's what they do. And it's as hard as it is, but they're lessons too. Then they become lessons, and yeah, so it's hard, it's tough, but we need to listen to that inner guidance, listen to what they're saying. If you're in a relationship that's toxic and it's not going good, and they're going to keep throwing synchronicities at you, they're going to keep throwing things at you until they're like, okay, it's time for us to intervene. We've done all we can, we sent all that we can to her, and she's not listening, so we're just going to do it for her.
Yeah, so hopefully you got a good idea of what intuition is and how you can really tune into that.
Yeah, so we appreciate you once again listening to our experiences. So take care.
Till next time.